Chapter 12. Attorney Brian Metcalf took off his tie at 5 o'clock, made himself a drink, and put his feet up on his desk. "Sure, you won't have one?" "Another time." Graham, picking the 𝘋𝘗𝘗𝘵𝘗 off his cuffs, was grateful for the air conditioning. "I didn't know the 𝘋𝘗𝘗𝘵𝘗s very well," Metcalf said. "They'd only been here for 3 months. My wife and I were there for drinks a couple of times. 𝘏𝑗𝑎𝑐𝑜BY came to me for a new will soon after he was transferred here. That's how I met him." "But you're his executor." "Yes. His wife was listed first as executor, then me as an alternate in case she was deceased or infirm. He has a brother in Philadelphia, but I gather they weren't close." "You were an assistant district attorney." "Yeah. 1968 to 72. I ran for DA in 72. It was close, but I lost. I'm not sorry for it now." "How did you see what happened here, Mr. Metcalf?" "The first thing I thought about was 𝘕𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗 A crime with a motive, power in that case, disguised as an insane attack. We went over Ed Jacoby's papers with a fine-tooth comb. Jerry Estridge from DA's office now. Nothing. Nobody stood to make much money off Ed Jacoby's death. He made a big salary and he had some patents paying off. But he spent it almost as fast as it came. Everything was to go to the wife, with a little land in California entailed to the kids and their descendants. He had a small spendthrift trust set up for the surviving son. It'll pay his way through 3 more years of college. I'm sure he'll still be a freshman by then. Niles Jacoby. Yeah. The kid gave Ed a big pain in the ass. He lived with his mother in California. Went to Chino for theft. I gather his mother's a flick. Ed went out there to see about him last year. Brought him back to Birmingham and put him in school at Bardwell Community College. Tried to keep him at home, but he dumped on the other kids and made it unpleasant for everybody. Mrs. Jacoby put up with it for a while, but finally they moved in to a dorm. Where was he? On the night of June 28th? Metcalf's eyes were hooded as he looked at Graham. The police wondered about that, and so did I. He went to a movie and then back to school. It's verified. Besides, he has type O blood, Mr. Graham. I have to pick up my wife in a half hour. We can talk tomorrow if you'd like. Tell me how I can help you. I'd like to see the Jacoby's personal effects. Diaries, pictures, whatever. There's not much of that. They lost about everything in a fire in Detroit before they moved down here. Nothing suspicious. Ed was wielding in the basement and the sparks got into some paint he had stored down there and the house went up. There's some personal correspondence. I have it in the lockboxes with some small valuables. I don't remember any diaries. Everything else is in storage. Niles may have some pictures, but I doubt it. Tell you what, I'm going to court at 9:30 in the morning, but I could get you into the bank to look at the stuff and come back by for you afterward. Fine, Graham said. One other thing. I could use copies of everything to do with the probate, claims against the estate, any contest of the will, correspondence. I'd like to have all that in paper. The Atlanta DA's office asked me for that already. They're comparing with the Leeds estate in Atlanta, I know, Metcalf said. Still, I'd like copies for myself. Okay, copies for you. You don't really think it's money, though, do you? No. I just keep hoping the same name will come up here and in Atlanta. So do I. Student housing at Bardwell Community College was 4 small dormitory buildings set around a littered quadrille of beaten earth. A stereo war was in progress when Graham got there. Opposing sets of speakers on the motel-style balconies blared at each other across the quad. It was Kiss versus the 1812 Overture. A water balloon arched high in the air and burst on the ground 10 feet from Graham. He ducked under a clothesline and stepped over a bicycle to get through the sitting room of the suite 𝘈𝘍𝘍𝘗𝘕 shared. The door to Jacoby's bedroom was ajar, and music blasted through the crack. Graham knocked. No response. He pushed open the door. A tall boy with a spotty face sat on one of the twin beds, sucking on a 4-foot bong pipe. A girl in dungarees lay on the other bed. The boy's head jerked around to face Graham. He was struggling to think. I'm looking for 𝘈𝘍𝘍𝘗𝘕. The boy appeared stupefied. Graham switched off the stereo. I'm looking for 𝘈𝘍𝘍𝘗𝘕. Just some stuff for my asthma, man. Don't you ever knock? Where's 𝘈𝘍𝘍𝘗𝘕? Fuck if I know. What do you want for him? Graham showed him the tin. Try real hard to remember. Oh, shit, the girl said. Narc, goddammit, I ain't worth it. Look, let's talk about this a minute, man. Let's talk about where Jacoby is. I think I can find out for you, the girl said. Graham waited while she asked in the other rooms. Everywhere she went, commodes flushed. There were few traces of 𝘈𝘍𝘍𝘗𝘕 in the room. One photograph of the Jacoby family lay on a dresser. Graham lifted a glass of melting ice off it and wiped away the wet ring with his sleeve. The girl returned. Try the Hateful Snake, she said. The Hateful Snake bar was in a storefront with the windows painted dark green. The vehicles parked outside were an odd assortment. Big trucks looking bobtailed without their trailers, compact cars, a lilac convertible, old Dodges and Chevrolets, crippled with high rear ends for the drag strip look, 4 Folgers Harley-Davidsons. An air conditioner mounted in the transom over the door dripped steadily onto the sidewalk. Graham ducked around the dribble and went inside. The place was crowded and smelled of disinfected and stale canoe. The bartender, a husky woman in overalls, reached over heads at the service bar to hand Graham his Coke. She was the only woman there, 𝘠𝘦𝘢𝘥𝘪𝘀, dark and razor thin, was at the jukebox. He put the money in the machine, but the man beside him pushed the buttons. Jacoby looked like a dissolute schoolboy, but the one selecting the music did not. Jacoby's companion was a strange mixture. He had a boyish face on a knobby, muscular body. He wore a t-shirt and jeans, worn white over the objects in his pockets. His arms were knotty with muscle, and he had a large, ugly set of hands. One professional tattoo on his left forearm said, "Born to fuck." A crude jailhouse tattoo on his other arm said, "Randy." His short jail haircut had grown out unevenly. As he reached for a button on the lightened jukebox, Graham saw a small shaved patch on his forearm. Graham felt a cold place in his stomach. He followed Niles Jacoby and Randy through the crowd to the back of the room. They sat in a booth. Graham stopped 2 feet from the table. "Niles, my name is Will Graham. I need to talk with you for a few minutes." Randy looked up with a bright, false smile. One of his front teeth was dead. "Do I know you?" "No. Niles, I want to talk to you." Niles arched a quizzical eyebrow. Graham wondered what had happened to him in Chino. "We here having a private conversation. Butt out," Randy said. Graham looked thoughtfully at the marred, muscular forearms, the dot of adhesive in the crook of his elbow, the shaved patch where Randy had tested the edge of his knife. Knife fighter's mange. "I'm afraid of Randy. Fire or fall back." "Did you hear me?" Randy said. "Butt out." Graham unbuttoned his jacket and put his identification on the table. "Sit still, Randy. If you try to get up, you're going to have 2 navels." "I'm sorry, sir." Instant inmate sincerity. "Randy, I want you to do something for me. I want you to reach in your left back pocket. Just use 2 fingers. You'll find a 5-inch knife in there with a flicket clamped to the blade. Put it on the table. Thank you." Graham dropped the knife into his pocket. It felt greasy. "Now, in your other pocket is your wallet. Get it out. You sold some blood today, didn't you?" "So what?" "So hand me the slip they gave you, the one you show next time at the blood bank. Spread it out on the table." Randy had type O blood. Scratch Randy. "How long have you been out of jail?" 3 weeks. "Who's your parole officer?" "I'm not on parole." "That's probably a lie." Graham wanted to roust Randy. He could get him for carrying a knife over the legal length, Being in a place with a liquor license was a parole violation. Graham knew he was angry at Randy because he had feared him. Randy. Yeah? Get out. I don't know what I can tell you. I don't know my father very well, 𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠 said as Graham drove him to the school. He left Mother when I was 3. I didn't see him after that. Mother wouldn't have it. He came to see you last spring. Yes, at Chino. You know about that. I'm just trying to get it straight. What happened? Well, there he was in visitors, uptight and trying not to look around. So many people treat it like the zoo. I'd heard a lot about him from Mother, but he didn't look so bad. He was just a man standing there in a tacky sport coat. What did he say? Well, I expected him either to jump right in my shit or to be really guilty. That's the way it goes mostly in visitors. But he just asked me if I thought I could go to school. He said he'd go to custody if I'd go to school and try. You have to help yourself a little. Try and help yourself, and I'll get to see you in school. And like that. How long before you got out? 2 weeks. Niles, did you ever talk about your family while you were in Chino? To your cellmates or anybody? 𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠 looked at Graham quickly. Oh, I see. No, not about my father. I hadn't thought about him in years. Why would I talk about him? How about here? Did you ever take any of your friends or to your parents' house? Parent, not parents. She was not my mother. Did you ever take anyone over there, school friends or rough trade, Officer Graham? That's right. No, never, not once. Did he ever mention any kind of threat? Was he ever disturbed about anything in the last month or 2 before it happened? He was disturbed the last time I talked to him, but it was just my grades. I had a lot of cuts. He bought me 2 alarm clocks. There wasn't anything else that I know of. Do you have any personal papers of his? Correspondence, photographs, anything? No. You have a picture of the family. It's on the dresser in your room, near the bong. That's not my bong. I wouldn't put that filthy thing in my mouth. I need the picture. I'll have it copied and sent to you. What else do you have? Jacoby shook a cigarette out of his pocket and patted his pockets for matches. That's all. I can't imagine why they gave me that. My father's smiling at Mrs. Jacoby and all the little munchkins. You can have it. He never looked at me like that. Graham needed to know the Jacobys. Their new acquaintances in Birmingham were little help. Brian Metcalf gave him the run of the lockboxes. He read the thin stack of letters, mostly business, and poked through the jewelry and the silver. For 3 hot days, he worked in the warehouse where the Jacoby's household goods were stored. Metcalf helped him at night. Every crate on every pallet was opened and their contents examined. Police photographs helped Graham see where things had been in the house. Most of the furnishings were new, bought with the insurance from the Detroit fire. The Jacobys hardly had time to leave their marks on their possessions. One item, a bedside table with traces of fingerprint powder still on it, held Graham's attention. In the center of the tabletop was a blob of green wax. For the second time, he wondered if the killer liked candlelight. The Birmingham Forensics Unit was good about sharing. The blurred print of the end of a nose was the best Birmingham and Jimmy Price in Washington could do with the soft drink can from the tree. The FBI laboratory's Firearms and Tool Marks section reported on the severed branch. The blades that clipped it were thick, with a shallow patch. It had been done with a box cutter. Document section had referred the mark cut in the bark to the Asian Studies Department at Langley. Graham sat on a packing case at the warehouse and read the long report. Asian Studies advised that the mark was a Chinese character, which meant "you hit it" or "you hit it on the head," an expression sometimes used in gambling. It was considered a positive or lucky sign. The character also appeared on a mahjong piece. The Asian scholars said it marked the red dragon.